is the continental drift theory. The theory of continental drift states that the continents were once joined together in a supercontinent and they drifted apart. So this got scientists thinking. There's lots of evidence surrounding similar types of rocks on completely different continents and jigsaw-puzzled coastlines. So, scientists now believe that the 7 continents we have today were in one supercontinent called Pangaea. And they believe that it broke apart to form our 7 continents that we have now.
Alfred Wegener. Alfred Wegener was a geophysicist and a meteorologist, and was also credited with theorizing continental drift. Alfred Wegener was a very world-renowned scientist and, again, credited with theorizing continental drift. Unfortunately, out of all of the evidence that Alfred Wegener provided to prove continental drift, a lot of scientists still didn't believe him, for multiple reasons, actually. Some of them being religious reasons, and some of them being that they simply didn't think he had enough proof. So, Alfred Wegener was known to go on many excursions to different continents to collect rock samples, and he noticed they were all the same. Interesting, huh? But unfortunately, Alfred Wegener was an intensive smoker and died of heart disease in the early 1900s.
Pangaea. Pangaea is the name of the supercontinent that scientists proposed existed 300 million years ago and broke apart 100 million years after it was formed. Scientists believe that Pangaea broke apart into the 7 continents we have today. Pangaea means all earth in ancient Greek. Evidence to make Pangaea seem logical were identical rock samples that were found on different continents. Also, puzzle coasts. If you look at some coasts of some continents, they looked like they could fit together like pieces in a jigsaw puzzle. This was very interesting to scientists, so they took a bigger look. What if the continents could have all been combined at one point and then split? With all the evidence used to make Pangaea seem logical, there was one piece of evidence that really made Pangaea stand out. Jigsaw-puzzled coastlines. What we mean by jigsaw-puzzled coastlines is that if you look at these 2 continents, you'll notice that their coastlines could fit into each other almost like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. This is one of the reasons why scientists believe there must have been one supercontinent one day, and then it broke apart into our 7 continents we have now. This is just one example. This is how scientists might have believed that Africa and South America could have been combined. Wow, look at the way that fit. So, scientists believe that there is also a couple of other ways that Pangaea might have fit, but this is one of the main ones, using South America and Africa as examples. With all the movement around the world, with all the movement of the continents, we can think tectonic plates. Tectonic plates are what moves the continents and all the land masses around the Earth. So, some of the major plates are the African plate, the Antarctic plate, the Indian plate, the Australian plate, the North American plate, the South American plate, the Eurasian plate, and last but not least, the Pacific plates. Wow, those are a lot of main plates. Some of you must be thinking, wow, those would move at a pretty fast pace. But actually, the plates move per year at about the size of a growing fingernail, except the one exception is the Nazca plate. That moves about 10 centimeters per year. That's about the pace of growing hair. That's really big. Plates move at all different directions, and they move at a lot of different plate boundaries.
plates move in different directions. So plates move along plate boundaries. So here's some of the 3 plate boundaries. Convergent boundaries, divergent boundaries, and transform fault boundaries. Convergent boundaries move like subduction. One goes under and one goes past. And they can create volcanoes and mountains. Divergent plate boundaries spread apart. And transform fault boundaries, they move past each other and can rub against each other. Now that you've watched the video, it's time for a recap quiz. Question 1. Who was Alfred Wegener? Well, Alfred Wegener was the scientist that proposed the continental drift theory. He's credited with that, and he's credited with gathering evidence like rock samples. Question number 2. What was the continental drift theory? Well, hopefully you had an idea of something about continents moving. The continental drift theory was a theory that continents were once combined in a supercontinent and then split apart into the 7 continents we have today. Question number 3. What is Pangea? Well, hopefully you guessed the supercontinent that once existed 300 million years ago and broke up 100 million years after it formed. The supercontinent looked something like this, but this combines only 2 continents. And the supercontinent broke up in, again, the 7 continents we have today. Now, this one became Africa, and this one became South America. Question number 4. What are some major tectonic plates? Well, the major tectonic plates would be the African plate, the Eurasian plate, the South American plate, the North American plate, the Pacific plate, the Indian plate, the Australian plate, and the Antarctic plate. So, how do tectonic plates move? Tectonic plates can move across 3 boundaries: convergent boundaries, which remember, subduction, divergent boundaries, separation, and transform fault boundaries. They can slide against each other. So, did you do well on the quiz? If you did, you definitely know your plate tectonics and continental drift theory.